This is Matt Hurt at Obsessive Viewer on Twitter.
This is Tiny at Obsessive Tiny on Letterboxd.
And this is ObsessiveViewer.com's The Obsessive Viewer Podcast. I'm going to try to do this from memory.
Okay.
Hello and welcome to The Obsessive Viewer. We're a movie and TV podcast that covers a specific topic. No, wait, do I say presented by ObsessiveViewer.com? Hello and welcome to The Obsessive Viewer. We're a movie presented by ObsessiveViewer.com. Or do I just say that for Tower Junkies? This is terrible.
I don't remember.
This is horrible. Hello and welcome to The Obsessive Viewer, presented by ObsessiveViewer.com. I think I do say that. Okay. Hello and welcome to The Obsessive Viewer, presented by ObsessiveViewer.com. That doesn't sound right. Hang on.
Yeah.
I have it right here. Oh, okay. No. Okay, yeah, I don't say it. Okay. Oh, this is going on the gag reel.
Yeah.
Okay, hello and welcome to The Obsessive Viewer. We're a movie and TV podcast that covers a specific topic, be it genre, trope, movie, or show each episode. Seriously, I do not feel well. You can find more of our work at ObsessiveViewer.com, more of our podcasts at ObsessiveViewer.com/podcasts. You can also like us on Facebook and join the Facebook group at Facebook.com/TheObsessiveViewer. And with me today, as per usual, is Tiny.
Yellow.
Hi, Tiny. How's it going?
It's going good. It's going good.
Good.
Yeah.
The pizza I had wasn't good.
That sucks, man.
Yeah, just,
Yeah.
yeah. I don't like barbecue pizza.
I'm not a fan of it myself.
Yeah, with pulled pork on it. It's not good. Yeah. Like, I'm like, this isn't an affectation. Like, I actually feel nauseous, so this is gonna be a fun episode.
Oh, boy.
But, but today on the podcast, we are going to be reviewing the new film, Ad Astra. That is currently in theaters, starring Brad Pitt, and we'll talk about that in a bit, but, Tiny,
Yep.
I have a couple pieces of news.
Okay.
That I didn't bring up the articles for, so I'm just gonna kind of freeball it here.
Okay.
So, a couple things happened. Today, it was announced, I guess, that, Joker, okay, so as of this recording, Joker is gonna be released in like a week or so.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, what's your expectations for it? I think we may have talked about it at some point, but how do you feel about Joker?
I haven't thought about it a lot. I mean, I want to go see it, and like, I think it's one of those things where it could be really good, or it could be over the top, or like, I'll really like the performance, but like the rest of the movie is going to be so-so, or the other way around. Like, I really don't know what to think. I'm not really putting many expectations on it at all.
I'm kind of the same way. Cause it's kind of like Solo Star Wars story. Like, in my opinion, it's like, in terms of, like, it feels like it's a movie that no one really asked for.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean by that. And I don't know, just seeing the trailer, the more I see it, the more intrigued I am by it, because,
Me too.
I mean, Joaquin Phoenix is amazing.
He's great, yeah.
So I'm sure he's going to give a really good performance, but again, it's an interesting kind of situation, because it's like, I don't know what this movie is. So,
yeah, right.
And maybe that's the best way to go into it and everything. So,
I kind of hope, I want to be like surprised. I really want to be surprised by it and be like, man, I actually really liked that. I kind of hope it's that situation.
Yeah.
And I can see that happening. So,
oh yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Apparently got a standing ovation at Venice.
Like 8 minutes.
Like
standing
8 minutes,
ovation
yeah.
or whatever. Yeah. So that's.
Yeah. But this is a terrible transition. But do you know where it's not going to get a standing ovation?
Where's that?
Aurora, Colorado. And that's not a joke. I'm not making a tasteless Dark Knight Rises shooting joke.
Okay.
Because the theater where the Dark Knight Rises shooting occurred in 2012 is not going to be showing that movie. It's not going to be showing Joker.
Dang.
Yeah.
Can't blame them. Can't blame him.
No, me neither. And apparently it was at, I think, the request, or it was in response to 5 people that were related or connected to like the victims of the shooting in 2012. I think they appealed to Warner Brothers, and they were like, hey, you need to work on, lobbying for gun control or something, I don't know, gun reform. And I think the movie theater decided that they weren't going to have it there. And I didn't read many responses.
Oh boy.
Just because it's the internet, but like there were people saying like, oh, so you, people saying like, well, good for them or whatever, or like, you can't blame them, like you said. Like people saying like, oh, so you think that we should be allowed to just censor movies? It's like,
it's not what they're doing.
The same thing at all. Yeah. No, it's a thing of respect and everything.
Yeah. Isn't Aurora like a suburb of Denver, kind of?
I think so, maybe.
Or Colorado Springs. It's a suburb of a major city.
Yeah.
My point is,
like, it's not the only theater.
Right. There's probably 10 other theaters they could go to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also Warner Brothers said, like, this movie isn't meant to make this character a hero or anything like that. And it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Let's settle down on the pre-release damage control.
Right.
But yeah, and then like, just, I don't know, like the lack of just compassion in online discourse is just ridiculous.
It's disheartening.
Yeah, like people like responding to that with just like the laughing emoji. It's like, okay, well, tons of, like, I read the article, and like one of the victims that were mentioned in it that we're appealing to is like it went through and said like this person who lost a sister in it, and then this one who lost a cousin or something, and then this one who lost her unborn child and her 6-year-old daughter or something like that. And it's like that you can't. Yeah, just like, I don't know how anyone can be flippant about something that tragic and terrible.
If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all.
Exactly. Yeah. And that goes for iTunes reviews too. But yeah, it's just so weird. And then I was going to make this stupid joke that's out of our wheelhouse, my wheelhouse really, on the podcast, but I get the criticism against pulling it from the theater, because that happened in 2012. It's now 2019. There's been tons of legislation passed that's controlling guns and everything. Like it's a safer world we live in now. So,
totally.
Yeah. Yep. Anyway, that's, yeah. And then that, briefly, because we don't need to talk much about this, but do you have any comments on that, by the way?
Oh, no. Like I said, I support that.
Yeah.
It's a little awkward to have that movie playing there, I think.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember seeing The Dark Knight Rises with you and Fecus, and Ray was there. Also, Jameson?
Yeah.
Who
I haven't talked to in many years.
Yeah, I saw him like a year ago at Target in Avon.
Oh, random.
Yeah. He recognized me. I did not recognize him. I felt really awkward.
Oh, boy.
But yeah, he was like, oh, yeah, hey, Dark Knight. And I'm like, yeah.
Oh my god. 6
years ago.
That's funny.
Yeah. But, he seems to be doing well. But at least as of last year. But anyway. Yeah, I remember that. Like, I think someone in the group, or maybe you, like, looked at your phone or something and said, like, oh, there was a shooting at it. And then, then movie started.
Oh my gosh.
And then we watched the movie, and then I went home and I was like, oh, that was like hearing about what all happened. It's like, holy fuck.
Yeah.
I remember the next day, like, watching, like, MSNBC or something, like, because, like, they went to his apartment and they thought that it was booby-trapped and stuff, and they had, like, a live feed.
That's right.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah, there's a book on Audible that I need to grab and listen to, but it's called A Dark Knight in Aurora, I think. It's, like, inside the mind of whatever the fuck his name was.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm curious about that. But to transition to another topic that's not lighthearted either. Have you been aware of the Shane Gillis, I think his name is, controversy and SNL?
I saw a headline about it. That's really it.
I've been having such a weird, like, schadenfreude kind of, like, kind of reaction to it. So basically, SNL announced they had hired 3 new cast members for SNL for the new season. And one was the first, like, cast member of Asian American descent, and then someone else, and then this comedian named Shane Gillis, I think. So it was funny because I think I saw, like, Paul F. Tompkins tweet this, like, as soon as they posted that, like, that news hit the internet. I remember, I need to dig up the tweet, but he had retweeted it and said, like, oh, these guys' Twitter accounts are about to be wiped clean. And then within 15, not joking, within 15 to 20 minutes of seeing that, there was already controversy around the Shane Gillis guy.
Oh my God.
So I mean, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. He seems like just a shitty person and a shithead. But, like, he has a podcast where it's Matt and Shane's Secret Podcast or something.
Okay.
And it's it's really, like, it's the best kind of podcast, in my opinion. Just 2 guys talking about nothing.
Oh, yeah.
2 white guys just talking about nothing and just bullshitting.
Yeah.
Check out patreon.com/obsessiveviewer. But, so, like, there was a clip, a 2-minute and 20-second clip of them talking about Chinatown and how, I guess they were making jokes about it, but it was, like, the kind of joke where it's, like, not funny at all.
Okay.
Like, it wasn't satirical. Like, I had a conversation with Fecus about this. He was like, well, like, Family Guy and South Park, they get away with, like, really, like, blue humor and, like, very, what's the word I'm looking for? Racist.
Okay, yeah.
And, like, bigoted kind of humor, but they get away with it and everything. It's like, yeah, but that's, like, it's satire. It's, like, it's parody. Like, having, like, there's a scene from an earlier episode of Family Guy where they talk about, like, that's as useless as Mel Gibson's apology, and it's like Mel Gibson in front of, like, a podium at a press conference saying, like, I'm really sorry about your big noses, or I'm really sorry to all the Jewish people out there for your big noses and how you're cheap and like just stereotypes and stuff. And it's like, in that context, it's funny. I find it humorous and everything. I'm not going to hide that. But this guy, the clip, he, like, it's so sporadic and just stream of consciousness, but he's like, they're talking about how it's fucking weird how there's so many, like Chinatown is just, it's basically, he doesn't say China, he says Chinese, which seems like a racial kind of slur. Like, he's trying to be provocative. And then they keep intentionally pronouncing noodles as neuters, which is really highbrow. But the big thing was that he uses a racial slur against Asian people that begins with a CH. He's like, let's just he says it just kind of off the cuff, and he's like, let all of the racial slurs live there. And it's like, okay, that seems like it's not really something. Like, the content of that does not feel like it's set out of a place of humor. And then he's talking about how, like, they keep making the neuters thing, and then the neuters joke over and over again. And then, like, he mentions how, like, he was there with, like, his wife or his girlfriend or something, and then, like, she said it, and then he had to tell her to be quiet and stuff. It's like, okay, it's just, that's not funny. It's just, you're being, like, gleefully racist and everything and disrespectful. So that hit the internet, and, he issued a statement. I don't want to say apology, but he issued a statement that was just basically a screenshot of his notes app that had like a long thing that says like, oh God, it's so, I really dislike him for this, but he's like, okay, yeah, that's what he said. So I'm just gonna read his fucking statement. This is after a clip of him, being racist for quote unquote comedic effect, that the jokes just were not funny, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. He said, I am a comedian who pushes boundaries. I sometimes miss. If you go through my 10 years of comedy, most of it bad, you're going to find a lot of bad misses. I'm happy to apologize to anyone who's actually offended by anything I've said. My intention is never to hurt anyone, but I'm trying to be the best comedian I can be, and sometimes that requires risks.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's a weird, like, non-apology kind of thing, or like he's kind of like standing by it, which, I mean, okay, if you're an artist and you're under flack for something, like, I can understand, like, standing by it, but if it's just abjectly terrible content, like, I'm not, like, I just feel like it's a weird hill to die on.
Yeah. That's weird.
Yeah, so the backlash all happened. SNL like took the weekend, and then they announced like the Monday after that they were like, yeah, he's not going to be on the cast.
Oh my god. Didn't they like basically admit that they sort of hired him to appeal to a more conservative audience? Yeah,
they did, and like that's what's the most like satisfying to me is that he was selected as like kind of as a response to kind of the idea that SNL is left-leaning, and he was selected to kind of appeal to a more conservative viewer base, with their refined comedic sensibilities. And so, cheap shot. But in addition to that, it was reported that he had not only been selected for that reason, but obviously they didn't vet him, clearly.
Yeah.
But also, he did not go through the ordinary audition process. Like, with SNL, I'm probably going to get the details wrong, but like, there's an audition process. Like, you have to come with prepared characters, you have to perform for Lorne, and then like it's a process, and they basically expedite, like, they cut that out. Like, he had like an audition, and like he basically brought his stand-up material, and that's basically it. And then they're like, you're hired.
Huh. Weird.
And with that context, I love his follow-up statement because it is so funny to me. Okay, so his follow-up statement after he was fired from a job that he just got, he says, it feels ridiculous for comedians to be making serious public statements, but here we are. I'm a comedian who is funny enough to get SNL. That can't be taken away. Of course, I wanted an opportunity to prove myself at SNL, but I understand it would be too much of a distraction. I respect the decision they made. I'm honestly grateful for the opportunity. I was always a Mad TV guy anyway. Which feels kind of, I don't know.
Backpedaling.
Yeah, backpedaling, and like, just kind of unnecessarily, like, I don't know, weirdly, not passive aggressive, well, I guess a little passive aggressive, but the best part about that to me is that, like, I had retweeted something that, it tickles me so much, that cause he's like, I'm a comedian who was funny enough to get SNL. That can't be taken away. Like, those two sentences, first of all, it was taken away immediately. And second of all, you weren't funny enough to get SNL because you did not go through the proper auditioning process. Like, they admitted that their vetting system was flawed and everything. But I think at the end of the day, what is most disheartening about this, aside from the racism and everything and all that, is that it's disheartening to know that even SNL won't, like, listen to a podcast. Yeah. Like, we have an uphill battle for getting listeners for our podcast. Like, and we're not even, So anyway.
Have you, have you listened to, or I guess not listened to, have you watched Dave Chappelle's latest stand-up?
I haven't. I'm not a big Dave Chappelle fan,
really?
honestly.
Okay.
I saw one clip of it because his whole Jussie Smollett thing.
Yeah.
Jussie Smollett.
That was hysterical.
That was pretty good.
That was so funny.
Yeah.
It's it was good. It was, I mean, it's one of the boldest stand-up acts I've ever seen. But he talked about like Kevin Hart.
Oh, okay.
His
yeah.
his thing with the Oscars and stuff like that, and kind of stood by him, and like, you know, Kevin Hart, I think, made an important statement regarding what happened to him. He said, you know, when I made those statements, I apologized for him, and like he said, he's not going to apologize for it anymore because I'm kind of paraphrasing, but basically he said something along the lines of, I can't keep apologizing for something over and over again because I've already apologized for it.
Yeah.
And like, I'm not going to spend my whole career apologizing for this one thing. And like, I thought that was a really important point, you know, in this day and age where cancel culture and all that stuff. Yeah. But it sort of made me think of that. Whereas he doesn't fall into that category.
Right.
But it just made me think of that, you know, because that's part of the whole cancel thing.
Yeah.
People being canceled. But it sounds like that guy probably should have been.
Yeah. And it was funny because there was a lot of people tweeting about how, like, okay, countdown to when Shane Gillis gets his own Netflix special, probably called Triggered. And someone, like, there was a tweet where someone was like, if you take any random like wow, what's the word I'm looking for, like photo bucket or like fill in, wow, what is stock photos. Okay. If you like search for stock photos of like smug white man and add Triggered, a Netflix comedy special, it looks exactly like the cover of a Netflix comedy special.
Oh my god.
And there were examples, and it was hysterical. Like, it's so funny.
Wow.
I'll try to dig that up and post it in the show notes and everything, but it was nice. It was really good. I liked that.
Nice.
Yeah.
Dave Chappelle's stand-up special, it's called I think it's from like early 2000s maybe. It's called Killing Them Softly.
Okay.
That is like one of my top 5 favorite stand-ups
really
ever. It's
interesting.
It's amazing.
Wow.
Absolutely amazing.
Nice.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm not like a particularly huge fan of his, but
yeah,
that's like one of my favorite. I highly recommend that.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think that's it for news. Yeah, we should get to our review of Ad Astra.
Totes.
Yes. I think there was actually news, but screw it. So we're going to be reviewing Ad Astra. It's the latest film from James Gray, and written by James Gray and Ethan Gross. Of course, we're going to do a non-spoiler section and then a spoiler section for it. So if you want to hear our non-spoiler thoughts, continue listening. And if you want to avoid spoilers, check the show notes for timestamps. Timestamps can also be found at obsessiveviewer.com/OV296. So, I'm going to go ahead and read a plot summary courtesy of IMDb. Ad Astra is... Astronaut Roy McBride undertakes a mission across an unforgiving solar system to uncover the truth about his missing father and his doomed expedition that now, 30 years later, threatens the universe. This movie came out September... or something. We don't usually say the release date, so I don't know why I did that. Came out September 20th, and it is currently playing in theaters. So tiny.
Yes, sir.
You and I saw this together.
We did.
In the IMAX. And what were your expectations going in?
I had a little bit of hesitation, or I don't know, I was a little hesitant, I guess. Yeah, that's the same word. I was a little hesitant because of Brad Pitt in the role.
Oh, yeah.
Which I said that in our
Patreon video.
I like Brad Pitt fine. I think he's fine, but I like him when he's playing Brad Pitt.
Sure.
If that makes sense.
Like movie star Brad Pitt.
Right, like movie star Brad Pitt. When he's in those kind of roles, I'm fine with him. Like when he's in Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Or whatever. But this seemed like a really meaty role and just very cerebral and internal, and I just wasn't. He would just be super like, and he wouldn't even be on a list of actors that I would pick to play that role.
Yeah,
normally, that at least before I had seen it, that's what I was thinking.
Right.
And so that was my biggest qualm about the movie. Everything else, I was super excited. I thought the visuals looked great. It looked like a very deep layered science fiction film, which is what I'm all about.
Totally.
When it comes to sci-fi. So it hit all those notes. As far as my anticipation, it was off the charts, with the exception of my sort of lack of enthusiasm for Brad Pitt in the role.
Sure.
So, and I didn't even really know anything about, like, I was like, I don't even know who's directing it, or who wrote it, or is it based on a book? Like, I didn't have any of that information. It was strictly just on the trailers. I was like, yeah, I definitely want to try to go see that in the theater. So,
yeah.
Oh
yeah. For me, it was a movie that I wasn't too aware of, I would say. Like, I had seen the trailer a couple times, and obviously, like, I mean, if I didn't have A-list, my ticket would be paid for. Just the fact that it's a sci-fi space movie, like, that gets my ass in the seat. And I had heard some tweets and buzz coming out of some film festival, maybe Venice, actually. On the internet, people were raving about it, saying that it was incredible. So I was like, okay, well, that's going to be definitely shooting up on my radar. And I saw the trailer, obviously, a few more times. I was like, okay, yeah, we'll check it out. So going into it, I was pretty excited and looking forward to it. I figured that it would be a good movie for us to see in IMAX, and was not disappointed in that.
That was a very good decision.
Yes. But before we go any further, I do... and this is probably not right to bring it up on the podcast, but there is something that I need to put you on the spot for.
Okay.
You smuggled in Reese's Pieces.
I did.
Yes.
I did. Smuggled.
Yes. So, kind of call back to our Patreon thing. Do you have anything to confess, my son?
A modern day Han Solo, basically.
Yeah. Oh, well, sure.
Smuggle candy.
Yeah. You have do you also have a shitty spinoff movie?
Jesus. Did you guys say a shitty spinoff podcast?
No. Oh, God, I would never say that.
No, I don't have anthology.
Hey!
Oh, hey. Burn.
That's fine. It hasn't had an episode in a few months. Anyway.
Oh my gosh.
Oh,
yeah,
God.
I did. Because, the bag of Reese's Pieces I got was $2, and it was 3 times bigger than the $8 bag I would have gotten from the movie theater.
That's true. I actually think I might... Well, I'm going to go see The Shining on Thursday, but I might try to squeeze in, like, Hustlers tomorrow.
Yeah, I want to see
afterward.
that.
Yeah? Do you want to go tomorrow?
I don't think I can.
Do you want to go tomorrow?
I can't.
Do you want to go tomorrow?
I cannot.
Okay. No, but I think I want to do like an after work screening of that, like I usually do, specifically because at my work they have like 24-hour like kind of convenience area, so I can buy like snacks and stuff in the afternoon. Like I always go and get like a red cream soda just in the afternoon as a little pick me up. And like I was thinking like, oh yeah, pretty sizable bag of like Reese's Pieces and M&Ms and stuff, and I was like, I could live a little dangerously. And it's like $1.50, so
yeah, I'm an outlaw.
Yeah, so it's gonna rub off on me, but I'll still get a drink there. So yeah. So anyway, Ad Astra. So Tiny, broad thoughts. What did you think of Ad Astra?
I ended up really enjoying it. I think there were some story and plot parts issues that I had with it, but those are so overwhelmed by all of the great things about the movie that they're very much in the background. I really enjoyed it. I think what I've been struggling with since I saw it is it going to make my top 10 for the year? And I think it's going to be it has a good chance of making it, but if it doesn't, I think it'll definitely be an honorable mention. I think.
Nice.
There's so many things that are just amazing about it, but a few of the issues like kind of really bothered me about it in the moment.
Okay.
But one of the good things is that I really enjoyed Brad Pitt in the role.
Nice.
I didn't think I was going to, but he the character really called for a lot of the word that immediately came to my mind was stoic, and like stoicism is what the character really called for, and that's how Brad Pitt seemed in the trailers. And I was like, man, did he really just like phone this in or whatever? I wasn't sure, but that characteristic played perfectly into the mannerisms and the development of the character required that, and it was the perfect way to play that character. I think it really played out perfectly throughout the movie, and I think the way that it culminated in the end, I was really happy with.
Nice.
So yeah, as far as the character development, so that qualm was completely taken care of. There were moments of absolute awe during the film.
Yeah.
Which I honestly, there was those feelings I hadn't had since I watched a movie like Interstellar or Gravity or 2001: A Space Odyssey. I still think I don't think anyone's ever going to top 2001. Like
right.
I genuinely don't think that's possible, especially visually. I think maybe somebody will come up with a space movie that, as far as, like plot or something like that could maybe rival or best 2001, but visually, I just don't think it's ever going to happen.
Yeah.
But this movie, as far as great visual sci-fi, will be more than just in the conversation.
Yeah.
It's gonna be, I think, a tentpole, beautiful, gorgeous space sci-fi movie. Those are the notions I had during the movie, and I think that's the most impressive part of the movie and what I want to celebrate the most about it.
Yeah, and I'm going to be agreeing with a lot of that. What I'll say is that it's funny, and this is completely knee-jerk. So it's knee-jerk, and maybe I'll see that tomorrow. But it's a knee-jerk reaction, and it's something that I need to consider more. But like the whole time I was watching it, like you said, like you had thoughts like, okay, well, this is going to be in the top 10, or it's like you're thinking about that. I'm like, there were moments in this movie where I'm like, am I watching my favorite movie of 2019? Like,
wow,
is this happening right now?
Nice.
Because I was just really blown away by so much of this movie. Like,
wow, visually,
absolutely stunning.
Yeah.
Like, I agree that 2001 is kind of the prime example of space science fiction film.
Yeah.
And with good cause, because Kubrick was a freaking genius, and the visuals of that movie are just awe-inspiring. Like, I think I said on a recent episode in person, and anytime anyone talks to me about it, I saw 2001 in the theater 3 times last year when it was coming back for its anniversary, because because it was so, because it's a movie that, like, I don't know when the next time I'll ever have a chance to see it in the theater.
Right.
And A-List allows me 3 tickets a week, so I definitely got my fill. But just like, that's a stunning movie, and this movie, Ad Astra, clearly pays homage to it. And there were some elements of the movie that I felt a little distracted by the level of homage that it paid to 2001. Like, two spots in particular. It's not really a spoiler. They go to someone goes to the moon. It's one of the big parts of the movie, and like there are 2 scenes. There's one where the passengers of the ship that's heading to the moon are in their, passenger area, and a flight attendant or space attendant, whatever you want to call her, comes up and hands him a towel or asks him if he needs a towel, something like that. Just kind of demonstrating the commercial aspect of it. Like, there's a scene when, in 2001, when I can't remember the character's name, the scientist at the beginning who kind of, I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah.
One of my favorite movies ever. But anyway, he's on a ship going to the moon, and there's a montage of him in the kind of flight deck or the passenger area, and someone comes up and hands him, like, I think it's a food plate or something, a food tray that has like all the different like futuristic food on it and stuff. But like, it is distractingly similar in Ad Astra, like the setup, like the design of the room that they're in, like the passenger quarters, like it's kind of a circular kind of thing with seats facing each wall in a circle, and then she comes up from behind them and offers, like, it's like visually it is extremely evocative of 2001, like, to the point that it's almost too much in my opinion. But that's a very minor quibble. And then it's funny because then when they land on the moon, when they dock with the moon station and everything, the moon base, it's like it looks just like 2001. Like, it is exactly like that, but faster. Which, like, I remember at one point in our lives, you mentioning that like it's like 2001 is like so meandering, and like I always remember that every time I see it. When I see the docking scene at the moon, I'm like, okay, speed it up.
Land the plane.
Yes.
Land the ship.
Exactly. This isn't a fucking flight simulator, Stanley. Let's get to the fucking monolith.
Right.
But visually beautiful and everything.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, I mean, it looks just like that in Ad Astra, though. So it's not just like it. It's a little different, but it's very similar. So little things like that made me think, like, okay, that's a little, it's for a movie that is so visually striking and so visually unique for a space movie as Ad Astra is. I felt like that was taking a little too much from an iconic film. And I mean, they did it in I assume they did it in the name of homage, but it just felt a little like cribbing.
Okay.
But, but as far as the plot and the performance and everything, Brad Pitt, I agree. He embodied that stoicism that character needed. And one of the things that I was a little weary of, a little weary of when the movie started was the voiceover. Because he's kind of narrating it. He's kind of, it's a voiceover narration. Like, he's literally like saying his feelings to us. And I was a little reticent about that. But as the movie went on, first of all, it's really hard when it's just him for so much of the movie,
right,
for them to articulate like what's going on visually. And also, it kind of felt like I came to terms with it because it kind of felt a little bit more thematic to me. Like, the voiceover kind of felt a little bit at times like a soliloquy or something from like a play, and like I kind of rationalized it that way, so I didn't have a problem with it. I thought it was a unique storytelling device that I think worked pretty well for it.
Okay. That was one of the issues that kind of got to me.
Oh, really?
It grew on me by the end a little bit. The voiceover. In general, I think voiceovers are a bad idea, and there are very few that I actually enjoy. I think if you're going to use it, it's a hard balance to strike, because I feel like if you're going to use it, you need to use it as sparingly as possible. But at the same time, there has to be a theme for it. Like, it's horrible when you get to the end of a movie and they just drop in a voiceover for no reason. It's just like, well, how do we wrap this up? Let's just do a voiceover, and that's terrible. But like, one of the best voiceovers I've ever seen is Kiss Kiss Bang Bang.
Oh yeah, I haven't seen the movie in so long.
Yeah, there's like, they use it like 3 times, and it's like the first, second, and third act.
Nice.
Or maybe 4 times, but it's just like the perfect amount, and I really enjoyed it. There's a lot of humor in it. That's like my example of a perfect voiceover.
Nice.
But it kind of got to me in Ad Astra, especially initially. Like,
it was overused a lot.
It was, and there were points where it got in the way of the visuals, because like they had to convey this information through the voiceover, and we're just kind of watching him stand there. And it wasn't even like a close up of his face that was like a reflection of what he was telling us in the voiceover. It was just general visuals, and I was like, this is not good. This is bothering me.
Kind of just tight and...
Yeah, and also, I think they had a golden opportunity. It was such a great idea in the movie where he had to take these, like, automated... psych evaluations.
Psych evals,
and like, there's a bunch of them, and those were awesome. I thought that was such a good idea. Really good dialogue, and just... There weren't too... Again, there wasn't an overabundance of it, and it wasn't sparingly either. It was the perfect amount, and I was like, that was, like... the perfect opportunity for them to convey a lot of those themes from the voiceover into an organic situation.
Oh, I totally agree.
In the movie. I think they could have used those to so much better effect. But I will say, I really enjoyed those psych evaluation moments because we knew what was really going on in his head because of the voiceovers, and we saw how he was trying to mask it in the psych evaluations. That was really fascinating to me. So it's like, I'm not a writer. I can't write a script, and I can't develop character. I'm not going to tell them how to do their job, but I feel like there was sort of a missed opportunity there, or maybe a better way to blend those themes into that concept. I don't know, but I feel like there was sort of a missed opportunity somewhere in there. I can't quite put my finger on it. But yeah, the voiceover was... Like, the first act, I was just like, oh, man, I hope this is not the whole movie. It was kind of bothering me, but then I was like, oh, my God, the moon. Yeah, right. So it was easy to get over. Yeah. I'll put it that way, but that was one of my minor squabbles. By the end, it was a minor squabble, but...
While sitting on the couch, I thought Tiny raised some good points about the voiceover.
Oh, boy.
Anyway, no, but I do agree. That's a good point about the psych evals versus the voiceover and how they kind of worked together or against each other in a unique way to kind of show his mental state. I thought that's a good point. And I'm wondering how I'll feel about it when I see it again, because I really do think I might see it tomorrow after work.
Nice.
But yeah, it didn't bother me that much. I think that there was just so much going on and such like sensory overload that like I forgave the voiceover. In light of just kind of a compelling plot, interesting characterization for him, and just the magnificent visual effects.
Yeah.
There are a lot of set pieces. We'll have to talk about those in spoilers because we can't really talk about those. But one thing I want to mention is that, so the movie starts with a very, like, IMAX-worthy set piece. Like, like, it's in the trailer, but just the full effect of it is just unbelievable. Like, so visceral and amazing. But after that, so... the plot revolves around what's called the surge, where there's like blackouts across the planet, and it's coming from a signal kind of in the far reaches of the solar system. So when Brad Pitt is brought in to kind of be assigned a secret mission to go basically stop the surge, he's brought into kind of a very cold conference room set. And I don't know if you got this impression, and I don't think I'm reading too much into it because it's kind of there, but I really appreciated just the dialogue and the performances in that scene with the higher ups of it's not NASA, but it's like U.S. Space Command. Spacecom, yeah. Is that a real organization?
I have no idea.
I don't think it is.
I don't think so.
Yeah. Anyway, so the higher ups are telling him about his mission and stuff, and telling him about, like, giving him information, and just it could just be an exposition dump. But what I really admired about the way that scene is set up and done is that all of the characters, aside from Brad Pitt, are so monotone and sterile. Like, that's the word that I kept thinking about. It's like the scene of them talking about this top secret mission is so sterile. And it felt so, again, I'm going to use this term again, very evocative of 2001. We see these intense, incredible visuals in 2001 of what is essentially a scientist just doing a routine trip from Earth to the moon. Like, he is on a commercial, just passenger spaceship heading to the moon. And it's so just sterile and very just, commonplace. In here in Ad Astra, we have these characters that are saying like talking about things that could, that theoretically and literally have, like the fate of the human race at hand. And they're talking about it in such a bureaucratic, just sterile way.
Yeah.
And I thought that was just so smart. It felt so good because it made me think of Kubrick and 2001.
That was one of my favorite things, was the characterization of Space Command. It was a paramilitary organization. I mean, it's no, like NASA is no longer just a adventure exploration branch of the government. It's been militarized.
Yeah. Space Force.
Yeah. But it's the way it was done. It wasn't like this hokey thing, like, I don't know. I don't even know what to compare it to, but like some ridiculous military organization. It wasn't like Battlestar Galactica.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It was more like, it was almost like a new, like the early beginnings of like the CIA or the FBI, where it's all like kind of cloak and dagger, and it's like most people have the idea that this is a very shady organization, but there's no like blatant evidence that you can point to, and everything's just very the way you described it, it's very sterile because it's been militarized.
Right.
Like, this isn't, for example, like with Interstellar, there's a lot of hope and it's very inspirational, these missions that they're going on in Interstellar, whereas this is just like, this is your mission, accomplish it.
Right.
And it's funny because like they ask him, like, would you be willing to do this? But it's like, they're basically ordering him.
Yeah.
And it's just, it was such a,
I think he even says that, like, doesn't he say like something like, do I,
as if I had a choice.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. It's just a funny, that was a fun dynamic to explore. I think that was a really clever and just a smart part of the script, was the characterization of that organization as just like an early government program that's there's a lot of stuff going on in the background that people pick up on, but they can't quite put their finger on it, and
it says so much about the world and like that organization by it conveys so much by showing so little, and
exactly
it's just it's so, the tone is just, it's a perfect tone.
Absolutely. And the way that all plays out is it was really well done.
Yeah. Oh, I agree.
Yeah.
And it's man, it's good. And so like there are, like, it's not, and like not, so I don't want to keep comparing it to 2001. And this is where I'll kind of break away from that. It is not like the entire, to talk about like it being sterile and everything and cold, that's not indicative of the entire movie, because there are thrilling like set pieces that surprisingly like feel organic. Like, if you sat down and mapped out the trajectory of this movie beat by beat, like, it would feel on paper, and maybe it'll feel like this on repeat viewings, and maybe I was just absorbed by it on that first viewing, but like the beats that it goes through seem so random a little bit. Like, what happens to them on the moon? What happens to them on the ship?
Right.
Like, it's just like, what am I watching? But it's, but it comes across like, I don't know, something about it just, it worked for me. It clicked together.
It did.
It does a good job of conveying just the dangers of space travel in general. But also, again, it does such a wonderful job of showing us what the society of humanity is like now, in this future. And it does it by just so subtly, like when he's on the moon. Hi, pizza. When he's on the moon and he's walking down like a hallway or something. I don't know if you saw this, but there was like a sign or like a screen that had like, maybe on the moon or Mars. I don't know, but I think if it was the moon, it said something like, Luna's next top model or something, or next a reality show like
I
set
didn't
on the
see
moon.
that, no.
I was like, whoa, that is, and it's just a blink and you'll miss it kind of thing, and it just says so much, and there's so much like advertising around it, and like that again, not to bring up 2001 again, but like that felt like 2001, like his branding,
right? Totally,
just so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was I going to say? The one of the coolest, I think you sort of touched on it there, was how tenuous everything is. Like there's like it's so impressive because it's like, you know, it's to the point where things have developed to the point where space has been commercialized to like an almost comical level.
Yeah.
Where there's an Applebee's on the moon and shit like that. The moon is basically like Disneyland, pretty much.
Yeah.
But it's still so tenuous. It's demonstrated in other scenes in the movie that, you know, it has the feeling that like we've conquered space, but it's, you know, it's kind of the timeless conflict between man and nature that like we never really win that battle. We never really conquer nature. We're always subject to it in some way. And I think that was, you know, that's one of the classic themes of storytelling. And they so subtly wove that into the story, which we will expand on in spoilers. But, you know, the stuff goes wrong. Stuff goes wrong in space.
Yeah.
And
it
happens in real life and it happens in the movie. And they don't shy away from that. And it has, you know, space movies tend to be, sometimes they can be very glossy and like, you know, there's usually trouble, you know, something bad happens or whatever, but there's a lot of like sterile white, very shiny and pretty stuff in space movies, and this movie is that to the nth degree, but then all this horrible shit happens.
Yes.
And I thought that was really fun. Like they weren't trying to be beautiful for beautiful's sake.
Right.
They were being beautiful because that's how space really is.
Right.
But it's retarded dangerous.
Yes.
It's so dangerous and scary, and it can kill you in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
And it's just, that was such a cool dynamic that they kept subtly weaving into the movie that I was like, I think I almost didn't pick up on it at first, or like I picked up on it at different parts of the movie, and there's a scene in particular that like really brings it to the forefront. Yeah, that we'll save for spoilers, but there's just the pacing and the interconnectivity of the different themes in the movie was like brilliantly done. Really, really well done.
And an interesting connection to another space movie. This is a stupid joke. I'm sorry for wasting your guys' time listening to this.
Boy.
But much like the first time that I saw The Martian years ago, I had to pee so bad the entire time.
Really?
It was bad. But like the trouble was that like we were in the IMAX theater, which is on the other end of the building from the restroom, and I'm like, I don't want to miss. I don't want to close my eyes. I certainly don't want to fall asleep. And I don't want to miss you, baby, because I don't want to miss a thing. Yeah. Anyway.
God damn it.
So sorry. But no. So yeah. But yeah. I like it. It held my attention and my bladder. But to go back to what you were talking about, what we were talking about the commercialization of space and everything, and how, like you said, that it gives the impression that we conquered space, and I agree completely. And what I love about that is that on the surface, it gives us the impression like there's a moon base, there's a Mars base. They end up going to, like, the mission is to go to Neptune.
Right.
It gives this idea that we've conquered space travel, we've conquered space. But, like you said, we haven't exactly, because it is so chaotic and dangerous. But also, the fact that it's so commercialized and so branded and everything, it's like, it's kind of a bleak view of the future, because, and like, not to, like, this isn't a unique thing to this movie. Like, movies have done this, science fiction has done this, but showing the branding and everything and all that is like, we're not conquering space, we're expanding our reach and not growing as a species into like a spacefaring species. And I think that that's an interesting kind of subtle thing that I'm maybe reading a little too much into.
It's like we're not exploring space, we're infecting it.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Fuck that. Yeah, I agree. Another thing about the kind of overall plot, because we're kind of dancing around spoilers close to.
Yeah.
But I do want to mention, just kind of shout out to one of my favorite novel series that I haven't caught up or watched the show, but the idea of it that we're, as far like humanity is spacefaring, but within our solar system, definitely reminded me a lot of the Expanse series.
Right.
Which highly recommend, just super fun book series, and I'm sure the show is great. So, yeah, anything else we should touch on in spoilers? What did you think of the overall plot and the kind of all that? Give our listeners a little taste of the spoiler discussion.
Wait, so we're not in spoilers yet, right?
No, we're not.
Okay. So the plot, I feel like was a little bit murky, or just a little. I don't know if it was some of the motivations were just kind of hard to pick up on, but I don't know. It's hard to dance around it without going into spoilers.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was something that was just off a little bit to me. I haven't been able to put my finger on it. But it just felt like there was something missing, I guess, from I don't know if it was really the plot or the characters or what it was, but yeah, I'm kind of dancing around it. I'm not sure how to get to it.
Sure.
It may just have to wait for spoilers.
Okay.
But yeah.
Yeah, the plot, I do agree. It kind of got a little murky there a little bit, as you said. And as much of a unique movie as it was, homages to 2001 notwithstanding, it did feel like kind of the log line of the movie, the kind of overall plot condensed down, felt a little derivative of just other science fiction. And that's because, I mean, I've watched a lot of science fiction, and it just seems like kind of an archetype of that type of movie. But I forgive it for that, because I feel like there is a very human story being told through Brad Pitt's character and his relationship with other people in the movie that I think is worthy of consideration if you're bothered by the plot of the movie. I'll leave it at that. But yeah, should we go into spoilers for Ad Astra?
Yes, please.
All right. Well, we're going to go into spoilers for Ad Astra. Of course, I'm going to play a clip from the trailer here to give you time to navigate spoilers or navigate timestamps and all that, or to shut us the hell down. So enjoy this clip from the trailer. When we come back, we're going to spoil Ad Astra. If you want to skip the spoilers, check out the show notes for timestamps, and check the show notes at obsessiveviewer.com/OV296.
Major, we have some highly classified information.
What can you tell us about the Lima project?
Its objective was to search for advanced extraterrestrial life. The ship disappeared approximately 16 years into the mission.
And the commander was?
He was my father, sir.
This might come as quite a shock to you. Your father was experimenting with a highly classified material that could threaten our entire solar system. All life would be destroyed. We're counting on you to find out what's happening out there.
Spoilers on for Ad Astra. Are we ready?
Yes.
Okay. So spoilers on for Ad Astra. We are about to spoil Ad Astra. So we didn't talk about the specifics of the mission, but I also want to talk about the specific set pieces also. There are a few distinct set pieces I want to talk about. So
Sure.
where do you want to start?
Well, I think with the first one makes sense with the space antenna, if you will.
Yes.
Which is really cool. I think I've heard of that concept before of a space antenna. Like it's a sort of semi-feasible thing that could actually be built someday, as it's almost like an elevator.
Yeah, I've heard about that. I've heard that concept. God,
Yeah.
this makes me want to read more science fiction.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, just that opening scene, just to sort of set the tone, was just unbelievable.
Yeah. It's so. Just. I mean, what a way to bring us into a movie.
Right.
Like, my God. just so intense, visually like incredible. Like it had the feel of like a Christopher McQuarrie Mission Impossible kind of set piece. Like I'm thinking of the Halo jump in Mission Impossible Fallout.
Absolutely.
Definitely had that kind of visual feel to it. And just the suddenness of it and brutalness of it. Just so thrilling.
Yeah, absolutely. Like there's a running theme or point that I will make throughout most of the big set pieces is that like I really couldn't tell what was CGI and what wasn't.
Right.
Like it's and that's just not saying like, oh, the CGI was really good. Like it was so good that like I genuinely, obviously they didn't fly to space to film this movie, but it fucking looks like they did.
Yeah.
It really does. And like it looks like someone actually built a space antenna or an elevator, and they went to that elevator antenna and filmed this movie. That's what it looks like. And I think the most impressive was actually the moon for me because it looked like they went to the moon.
It really did.
That. I mean, it was just unbelievably detailed.
Yeah, the moon is a harsh mistress. It's a book title. I haven't read it though. Yeah, Robert Heinlein.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, yeah, it was stunning. Like
absolutely.
And this is where, like, there are a couple of scenes where a couple of the set pieces, where this is like why I said that if you were to just write down beat for beat what happens in this movie, it would be kind of bonkers. It's like, okay, go to the moon pirates, go to Mars, climb up the part of the ship to hitch a ride.
Yeah.
Space monkey tears a face off and stuff.
Right.
Like just insane stuff.
Yes.
But it just felt like it just connected for me in some way. How did you feel about the space pirates, the moon pirates, and the kind of I can't think of a pun in there. The kind of Fast and Furious, microgravity. I don't know.
Yeah, that was it was super cool. One of my favorite things about it was the fact that the rovers looked like vintage rovers.
Yes,
like they probably would have come up with something new by now that looks a little bit.
Well, I think that is something that permeates through the rest of the movie because like the displays and stuff on the flight decks and everything, just like it has that kind of old style like space shuttle look of panels of just like buttons that it's not like this crisp and clear. It's not all touch screen and like Minority Report stuff.
Yeah.
It's like very it feels dated, but it feels futuristic at the same time.
Right. Like I liked the road. I thought it was cool. Like it was kind of a nice homage, or it's almost like, well, we're going to keep them this way because that's how they were originally.
Ain't broke, don't fix it.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, I thought that was kind of fun, but it just a little. It didn't bother me or anything, but it was. I just kind of noticed it. But
seemed kind of. I don't know if I'd say maybe anachronistic.
Yeah, something like that.
Sure,
something like that. But yeah, that was super thrilling and exciting. It was like it was kind of like they threw in an action movie scene.
Yeah,
almost kind of out of nowhere. But yeah, the climax of that where they go spinning off into space.
That was so cool.
Into the crater. That was super cool.
So cool.
Yeah.
Man, I love this movie. I really did. My God.
And it was funny that like the just fun conspiracy stuff that Space Command has like a secret moon base on the dark side.
Yeah.
I was just like,
that was cool.
Of course they do.
Yep.
Because there's so many conspiracy theories about the dark side of the moon, that they actually had one. Yeah, that was just fun.
Jeez.
And I just loved that whole everything that happened on the moon was so cool.
I agree.
The commercialization of it, it's stupid.
I just pictured like some dude, like, in his yard, like, looking up at the moon, thinking, like, there's some, like, secret base or something on the dark side of the moon, just yelling at the moon, saying, like, turn around, you bitch! So, I don't know. But anyway, the moon doesn't rotate at all, does it?
No. Like,
Okay.
there's one side is perpetually dark.
Oh,
as far as I know.
Just like my soul.
Yeah.
Anyway, hashtag bad boy of podcasting. So
Shit just got real.
it did. So anyway, the dark side of the moon, conceptually was great. Execution was great. As much as it did feel kind of like a action movie kind of thing, I didn't mind it because I think that it was thrilling and really well visualized.
Absolutely.
And what'd you think of Donald Sutherland?
Yeah, he was a great addition to the cast. Like a great choice for that role. I liked him a lot. He had that very wise, sage-like kind of thing down perfectly. It was really interesting that was like the last thing he did. Like, I feel like he sort of knew the whole time that he was on the verge of death.
He did have, like you said, sage-like thing and like kind of a fatherly presence to Brad.
And there was a sense of urgency. Yeah, there was a sense of urgency the whole time that I feel like he was conveying. Like, he wasn't asking a lot of questions.
Right.
It was mostly just telling him things and like, okay, let's move along. You need to get on the ship and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That was just a really cool, just really, really well done. Great acting by Donald Sutherland. He was really good.
And good, like, kind of plot advancement when he gives him the info.
Exactly. Yeah, that was really cool. Yeah. But then they, I think one of the more thematic and integral scenes was when he was on the journey from the moon to Mars, and that's when they come across the ship,
the derelict ship.
Yeah,
they really weren't monkeying around.
They were not. Yeah, joke.
Yeah,
but yeah,
that is the proper response,
right? But yeah, that was an example that I was. It's the best example of the sort of theme I was poking at before we got to spoilers of the whole man versus nature thing and how tenuous space travel is even this far in the future when it's so commonplace. We feel so comfortable. They convey this idea that we feel we're so comfortable and complacent when it comes to space travel, sort of like the way we are with air travel now, or automobile travel. But we kind of forget that driving a car and flying in a plane is still really dangerous.
I sometimes think about that when I'm flying a plane.
Right.
When I'm in the car, I'm like, this is like, I don't know. It's kind of, it's humbling in a way.
Right.
No, but it does feel like there's so much. I don't know. I know what you mean.
Yeah. You're in space and you're doing experiments on monkeys, and somebody hits the wrong button and you get your face eaten off.
Yep.
And because, if you're in a zoo on Earth, it's much easier to mitigate that situation.
Right.
But, space comes with all kinds of troubles and issues.
Isolation.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So I feel like that was a really important scene, and it set it shined a light on a very important theme of space travel that I thought was really cool. And it was it wasn't like subtle, like Brad Pitt's character in a voiceover was like basically saying all the stuff that we just said.
Yeah,
space travel is still really dangerous.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And like he even says, like, guess he wasn't monkeying around.
Yeah.
But he doesn't really say that, guys. Anyway, but yeah, it's in like the reveal of that was so just jarring in the best way. Like it was like, it was thrilling. And like when you see, cause you just see the captain's like body floating in the suit, and he's wiggling, like it's like he's convulsing.
Right.
And like in that moment I was like, what the fuck? Like for a split second I was like, oh, there's some like contaminant or something and everything.
Yeah.
And then like there's a fucking like enraged like ape or whatever just chewing at it. Like I'm like, oh my god, what is this movie?
Yep. I had no idea what to think in that moment before we saw the baboon or the ape or whatever it was. I was like, oh fuck, there's a monkey in space. Oh shit, okay.
Oh yeah. Obviously made me think of like 28 Days Later a little bit.
Yeah.
And even a little bit of 2001.
Right.
Yeah, it was just really, really unique. And there's a lot of, or a few kind of like shots of something that I found was interesting. Maybe it's indicative of Space Command being kind of a sterile or like their people being expendable kind of thing, that like when characters die, like they just ship them out the airlock.
Right.
Kind of the space version of a Viking funeral. Which I'm sure I think they do the same thing in like Star Trek and stuff.
Right.
But it's just, it makes it feel like their people are expendable, and it's just like, it's so almost unceremonious. Like
there's a lot of collateral damage.
Yes. And like you can kind of, like I mentioned that it's like in Star Trek when they do that, but it's like Star Trek is like a deep voyage kind of thing where they just like they're existent, like they're living on this spaceship, and it's like here it's like it's just so cold and sterile again. Like just he or she is just being shipped out. He's gone. It's like it's such a unique kind of subtle world building a little bit, or expanding a little bit for the state of the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then I think another. I mean, it was all super interesting, but I liked the depiction of Mars, because I feel like so many sci-fi movies where they've gone to Mars, it's been pretty much just like kind of romanticized. Yeah, like The Martian. There was this cool moon Mars base. Yeah, and stuff like that, or even
tons of disco music.
Yeah, even like Mission to Mars, which is sort of a ridiculous movie. Yeah.
Total Recall.
Total Recall, right.
Give the people air.
Get your ass to Mars.
Yes.
But no, this was... The depiction of Mars was... it was kind of like a prison, really. It's all underground, and you had to check in, and it was... they had like their own kind of culture there. They were kind of like miners, almost kind of like a mining community is what it felt like, because it's all underground and stuff.
And again, totally evoked the Expanse series.
Yeah, totally. But yeah, like I liked how there was like distinct culture on those two different. On like the moon and Mars had kind of like their own culture. Yes. And especially with like the director of Mars operations, played by Ruth Negga, who I'm not really familiar with, but she kind of had this chip on her shoulder, it sort of seemed like, and had this strange relationship to, or attitude towards McBride, which we found out that his dad killed her parents. Right. So that was the reason for that, but there still felt like there was this like distinct Mars kind of culture, and I thought that was just really cool how they established that so quickly. Totally, because he's not there for very long. He's not on the moon for very long. No, you get these such clear cut ideas of what it's like there and how the culture might be, and how it was interesting how Ruth Negga's character was like, she talked about how she was born there and she's only been to Earth once and stuff like that. It's just wild to contemplate that, the depth of space exploration being that expansive.
And I kind of felt a little, I don't know if I'd say disappointed, but like she's the one that helps him get off Mars, right? Yeah. Right. That felt a little, to me in the moment, it felt a little bit like just plot convenient, a little Deus Ex Machina there. But I kind of rationalized that by thinking that it's interesting if you look at the movie and look at Roy's interactions with people. Like, he is such an isolated, alone person, and it's just an interesting kind of thing, because like he doesn't have, like, this woman is like helping him get to his mission and everything, and like they don't, it's not like a fulfilling kind of interaction or relationship between the two or anything. It's just like, it's kind of just another kind of sterile, straightforward kind of thing. Like, okay, well, I'm going to get you to the launch pad and everything, and you gotta get on the ship. And he's like, all right, let's go. Right. It's just, I'll be able to articulate it more next time I watch it. But, it felt just kind of indicative of his character. And I kind of appreciated that characterization and how that is kind of mirrored or reflected, same thing, by his father's isolation on Neptune insanity.
Right. Totally.
Yeah. Also, just really intense and ballsy scene of him climbing up the ship to get off Mars.
Yeah.
Like, I was watching, I was like, what the, like, there's no way. Like, there's no way.
Well, I think it was similar to like The Martian, because Mars has like, you know, 1/10 of the atmosphere.
Yeah.
So there's not the same amount of drag and all that stuff.
Oh, that's a good point.
And the gravity's different and stuff like that. So I think that's how they kind of rationalize it.
That's fair.
So,
yeah.
But so one of I think the biggest like technical thing that really bothered me about the movie, and I don't know if this is stupid or not, but so the passage of time and the amount of time that the travel takes was a lot shorter than I thought it was going to be.
Okay.
So from the Earth to the Moon was like a matter of hours, I think. That journey was like, it wasn't even a day.
Right.
Which, with current technology, like, you know, in real life, that's about a 3-day trip.
Yeah.
And then from the Moon to Mars was like 9 days or something like that.
Something like that,
So,
yeah.
like, not more than 2 weeks.
Right.
Which now, that would be like, you know, a year.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next leg of the journey is Mars to Neptune. And in the movie, it's like 80 days.
Yeah, like 79 days.
Right. And so my issue with that is like that whole journey was 3 to 4 months. And that's it. How is it that they had, you know, it's revealed at the end that, or when he's on Mars, that Spacecom knew that his father was still alive this whole time, and that he had basically gone off the deep end. How is it that they have, in the couple decades, not just sent somebody out to Neptune to go take a look at what he did? That doesn't, because it's not like it's a 10-year journey to get out there. Like, I can understand that, like, you know, you can't really do that. Like, that mission was like if that mission had been a, you know, like pulling all our resources, kind of like a
Sunshine,
like a Sunshine type deal. Like, I understand that, but no, this is like, it took him 4 months to get there, and it wasn't even hard. Like, it was just, it was pretty standard, a standard journey. And that's what really bothered me. Like, I don't understand why Spacecom wouldn't have sent multiple missions out there to collect all his data and
that's
take him out because he's going crazy, something like that, you know.
And that's true.
That really bothered me.
It's hard to say. I'll be on the lookout for it next time I see it, because I'm kind of curious about that myself. But there's also a point to be made about how, like, Neptune is, like, literally, it's the farthest any human being's been.
Yeah.
Maybe there's something there. But yeah, I definitely agree. I think that that's a valid point, and I don't have a retort to it.
I think there's a case to be made that McBride, the older McBride, I can't think of his first name. Tommy Lee Jones. Tommy Lee Jones was kind of like a dirty secret, and they were like, we're just going to leave that out there and let's just forget that ever happened. Yeah. We're going to come up with this story, and that's going to be the story. Let's move on. But then the search starts happening, and they have to revisit it.
Right.
So I think you can make that case, but still, how is it that no one has ever gone out there to see what, like, that just doesn't make any
recon mission.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Like, go see what they found before he went crazy and killed everybody, or I don't know, or somebody go out there and take this asshole out so he's not doing something crazy. I don't know.
Yeah.
That bothered me a lot about the movie.
Yeah, I can understand that.
I think that's my biggest issue, actually, with the movie.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it didn't bother me. It didn't even raise an eyebrow.
Okay.
So yeah. I don't know.
Okay. I mean,
good discussion.
Yeah. I'm just used to so many in these space movies, a journey like that is like epic. Like Interstellar, you know, all those the missions for the different spoilers for Interstellar. Right. All the missions were like, you know, they were going to send them out and they were going to die there because of how long it takes to get there, and like it's, you know,
the time dilation of it. Like, even when I really need to watch Interstellar again.
I want to watch it again,
when they land on one planet, like the amount of time that's on the ship.
Right.
God damn, that's so interesting. Yeah. Anyway.
But this wasn't that at all.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe I'll have more to say when I see it again, which I really think I'm going to see it tomorrow.
Cool.
What'd you think of Tommy Lee and B-Rad?
B-Rad interacting for the first time. That was a really potent scene. That actually, I was very happy with that. Also,
the cat, like, those two playing father and son is just really inspired casting.
Good idea, definitely. Yeah. I think that, obviously, I think they compiled or condensed an entire lifetime of, thought and dwelling and,
daddy issues, for Brad Pitt's character, for Roy McBride. I think they compiled that all together remarkably well throughout up to that point, and them finally seeing each other after 30 years or whatever is the climax, the culmination of that. And that's really hard to live up to, and really hard to make that worthwhile. But I think they did a really great job. I agree. There's so much there in that moment for a variety of reasons.
And it could have been over the top so easily or completely unsatisfying.
Yeah.
It would have been very easy to fall into one of those two categories, but I think they hit a great middle ground. And I think my favorite part of it is just the fact, just how Brad Pitt reacts in that moment. One of my favorite parts about it is that he's not like, "Oh my God, Dad, I miss you so much. I love you, and
Daddy."
Like, but he never takes his eyes off him.
Oh yeah,
and he blinks like twice. He just cannot stop staring at his dad.
Looks like a real Heaven's Gate leader.
Nice.
Was that a Patreon
Callback.
thing? Yeah, probably.
I don't
remember. It was Patreon.
Yeah.
Scary stuff. Patreon.com/obsessiveviewer.
Nice. But that was such. Again, like a perfectly subtle reaction, and performance. I think that was the best part of his performance was in that moment, that scene where he's in awe, but he's not like, for lack of a better term, like fangirling out or like going crazy.
It's highly emotional and volatile at the same time.
Exactly.
Really, really well done.
Right.
Also the lead up to that, him walking down like that corridor and like seeing the dead bodies and seeing like the classic black and white like musical movie that's playing on the screens, like calling back to when he said something about his dad watching old movies or something like that.
Right.
Just like really like the ambiance of that was just really intense and nervous.
Absolutely.
For me.
And when they do interact the first time, it very quickly gets to, why'd you stay out here and do all this and Tommy Lee Jones, like the delivery and what he says, the writing of it and his delivery were just so, just absolutely heartbreaking.
Yeah.
When he says, I never cared about you or your mom or anything.
Yes.
I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
That's like one of the most.
That's not my home. It's like, here's my home. I've been here for 30 years. Like, just.
That's like the absolute last thing that Roy McBride wanted to hear.
Right.
And like, that's just completely earth shattering.
Yes.
Heartbreaking. And again, his reaction to that, I was just like, that was just perfect.
Oh, totally.
That's like kind of a tiny little tear falls out of the corner of his eye. I was just like,
God,
holy
awesome.
shit. That was just, I just thought that was all like kind of perfect.
Yeah. There's kind of a strange time jump, it seems. Like, I feel like there's like a missing scene or something. Like, they have that conversation and then like he tells him like, well, we're getting off of here and we're going back. It's, that's what we're doing, Dad. And then cut to like them suiting up and, Tommy Lee Jones is like freshly shaved or trimmed down a little bit, and it's just like it felt like maybe there was another scene that should have been there that was like convincing them further. But one thing that I really liked about that, and kind of the thing that I latched onto most about the character of Roy McBride, yes, Roy McBride, is when he tells when his dad says that he failed. And because he couldn't find extraterrestrial life or intelligent life or anything, that moment where I can't remember if Brad Pitt tells it to him directly or if it's in a voiceover, but he's like, you didn't fail, like you found like these beautiful worlds and everything, and like humans are still here, something like that. It kind of veered off into a little bit of corniness, just a little bit.
Yeah.
But like that sentiment that like this is Brad Pitt's arc through the movies. Like he's this loner, isolated person. I didn't retain all of what he said in the beginning of the movie, but like one of the things that I latched onto is that he says that he disappoints everyone, and he's just very down on himself, and he's very isolated and alone. And then at the end of the movie, he's like, this, like, it's him realizing that humanity is like still a thing, I guess. Maybe I'm not articulating that well, but there is like an emotional through line for his character, I think.
Yeah. And I think there was a very important sort of, I guess, like a scientific trope or sentiment conveyed in that moment, because, you know, it's sort of an idea of science that no experiments are failures. You just, you always learn something from data.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So he collected all this information over 30 years, and it's like, you didn't fail, where it's like, the kind of the cliched, stupid saying now that Thomas Edison didn't fail 1,000 times before he invented the light bulb. He found 1,000 ways to not make a light bulb or whatever.
Yes.
You know, it's a stupid cliched saying, but it's an important idea that when you conduct an experiment, and it doesn't pan out, you didn't fail, you just found a way that it didn't work.
Right.
Like you learned something, you still learned something. Yeah. And it's a little cheesy, like you said.
Oh, yeah.
But it's important in science.
That Edison line, did they use that in National Treasure?
I think so.
Yeah, I was trying to think. I was trying to connect it to a movie, but I know that's like a common thing. But yeah. Anyway, so the nuclear bomb and all that stuff.
I was just thinking of Nicolas Cage playing Roy McBride.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god.
My dad is on Neptune.
Dad, get in the ship or you'll be pissing blood. I don't know.
Oh, that's great.
That's ridiculous.
Damn it. Okay, I needed them to remake this movie.
Completely different movie.
Yes. Oh, God.
Oh, my God. Neptune dangerous.
Oh, fuck, that's great.
Port of call, moon base Applebee's.
Nice.
I don't know. That's stupid.
Oh, that's great. Oh, man. Okay, they need to make that. That's great. Okay, I do have a question about their little spacewalk thing. Did his father detach himself manually, or was there a mix-up or something?
I don't know. I was
unclear
iffy,
on that.
a little iffy on what happened there. But
okay,
yeah.
And I was trying to figure out what they were trying to do, and I think it's revealed like they were using the spinning thing as momentum to shoot off up to the thing. Yeah. There was a moment where and maybe this was intentional. Wow, this would be kind of cool. Where like he's down by the thing that they're about to blow up, the station and everything, and he looks up and he sees the light. Was that the light from his ship?
Yeah, from Cephas.
Okay, yes.
Yeah.
Did you think that was going to be like an alien ship that came to save him or something?
No.
Okay.
No.
Because I thought for a moment like that was going to be like a big thing there, and maybe, like I said, maybe that's intentional, or maybe I'm just putting something in there that's not there. But like the way that it was revealed or shown, like I kind of feel like maybe that was kind of intended to make you and Roy think that was for a brief second, and that's kind of to indicate that like he has a future, like humanity has a future because of him, and like I don't know. Maybe it's a reach.
No, I didn't think of that at all. Actually,
okay,
yeah.
I thought that it would be. I kind of half thought that this is what was going to happen, but when he got back on the ship and he used the momentum from the blast to propel himself to get back to Earth, I really thought that there was going to be some like Twilight Zone-y twist at the end that like there would be weird coordinates or something, and that he would actually like go to sleep or something and then wake up and like be like in like another solar system and be on one of those alien planets.
Oh wow!
Instead of Earth, and like he would actually meet like intelligent beings.
Oh, but
that's not the movie they were showing. That wasn't the story they were telling.
Yeah.
But I thought for a second, like, are we gonna go like full like trippy kind of Planet of the Apes kind of thing here?
Yeah.
Or when he gets all the way back, it would be like really like time dilated, so it would be the future.
Right.
So also, since we're kind of almost to the end of this review, what do you think of Liv Tyler?
Yeah, that was another issue I had.
Yeah.
Is that I would assume that it would just be better to not have her in the movie.
Yeah, completely thankless role.
Yeah. I think they kind of dropped the ball there.
They really did.
And like that was another opportunity to like develop his character more and to verbalize a lot of his inner monologue that was told in voiceover. I think that was a missed opportunity again.
Yeah.
Even just in quick flashbacks, they could have materialized a lot of that that voiceover work. So I feel like that was a missed opportunity.
Yeah.
And I think she's pretty good.
Me too.
I usually like Liv Tyler, so I thought she was a good choice for the role. It's just there was no role there, really.
Yeah. Oh, I agree.
Yeah.
It kind of, I don't know, maybe there's a different version of the movie that has like an expanded role for her. Maybe there's like a director's cut or something that would better satisfy that.
I would love to see a director's cut of this.
Oh, me too.
That was like 45 minutes longer or something. I would watch the shit out of that.
Like a Kingdom of Heaven type of director's cut.
Yeah, totally. Because the characters are really good. At least Roy McBride is a really good character. Fleshed out really well. Nailed that part. So
I wanted to mention this also, and we can kind of wrap up here in a second. The beginning, the first thing we see is just typed stuff on screen, kind of giving background and stuff. Did that make you think of Blade Runner?
Nothing makes me think of Blade Runner. I'm not really a huge fan of that movie.
Yeah.
I think I've seen that movie like twice in my life.
Okay.
And both times I was just like, man, I really don't get what the big deal is about this movie.
Well, it reminded me of Blade Runner.
Okay.
Also, not to put you on the spot, but you still have you still have my Blu-ray.
I do?
Yeah, I loaned it to you.
Oh.
But it's fine. It's also I have it on my video account too.
Okay.
So,
okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know I still had that.
Yeah. I think you have a video game too, but it's not a big deal.
Okay.
Anything. Yeah.
Okay.
You're just racking up the overdue fees.
The late charges.
The late charges. It's like 5 cents every day. But no, it's not a big deal.
Okay.
But yeah, it just reminded me of that. Let's close down this review.
Okay.
Overall thoughts, kind of to wind down and everything. How'd you feel about Ad Astra?
Again, really great. Like, I think there's a few points they missed that would have made it just unbelievable. Unbelievably good. Yeah. But still just, I mean, everybody should see it. I was blown away by so much of it. I think I gave it 4 out of 5 stars on Letterboxd, and I think I gave like an 8.5 on IMDb.
Nice.
Yeah, really great. A lot of my preconceived notions going in expectations were exceeded in a lot of ways.
Nice.
So that was a good thing. I think I'm kind of anxious to watch it again, rewatch it. Especially not in a theater, which is a weird thing to say.
Oh, interesting.
But I kind of want to see it in a more less epic setting.
Right.
To see how that all translates, all that epicness translates on a smaller screen, if you will.
That's a really... so sorry.
No, you're good.
I was just going to say, that's a really interesting way to avoid me inviting you to see it again.
Well, I think that's an interesting... That's something that you kind of have to take into account nowadays, because so many of us experience movies at home now.
Yo, totally.
You know, that's just the way it is now.
And that was a big part of Gravity too. Is like people were saying like, well, is it going to hold up on home viewings?
Right.
Which, spoiler alert, for me, it does.
Nice. So.
But yeah, so I'm sorry. Before I rudely interrupted you, what was the rest of what you were saying?
Oh, like Paige wants to see it.
Okay, nice.
She likes space movies, so she wants to see it, and I think it's going to be interesting watching it with her at home. Like that'll be a cool experience.
Nice.
That I'm looking forward to. So yeah, I don't think my opinion of it. I think my opinion of it will only improve. I don't think that's wishful thinking. That's just how I feel about it. Like, I think
science.
It's science. But yeah, I think seeing it again might make it even better for me. I'd like to see it again before the end of the year because I'm kind of like almost nervous about how I'm going to incorporate it into the end of the year. Is it going to be an honorable mention? Is it going to be on a list? How high would it be on the list? I just don't know. So it's fun to think about. But yeah, really, really great movie. I think it is going to be like a tentpole space movie that people will, it's like I said, I don't think anyone's ever going to top 2001. But I think this is definitely in the conversation.
Nice.
Yeah.
I think I already know how you're going to respond to this. But I think the closest comparison we can make to Ad Astra, like contemporary comparison, is Interstellar.
Yeah.
How do you think it compares to Interstellar? Have you rewatched Interstellar? Does it hold up for you?
I haven't seen Interstellar in a while. That's another thing I've been thinking about. Because I know I liked Interstellar a lot more than you did.
Yeah.
I think they're pretty even. I think Ad Astra takes the visual cake in that comparison. Not to say that Interstellar looked bad or anything. Right. But I mean, they're actually really different movies. The only thing they share is that there's a space mission. Right. They're actually not that comparable. But the characterization in Ad Astra is out of this world. Nice. Whereas I think Interstellar left a little bit lacking in that department in some areas.
Did it? I'm kidding.
But anyways, I mean, I honestly don't know. Right now, I would say I like Interstellar a little bit better. Okay. But nice. I need to see both again to really hone in that comparison.
Yeah, I've been saying for years I need to rewatch Interstellar, and I just find myself not doing that. Yeah. But obviously Ad Astra was a better experience for me, and I'm curious how it's going to hold up. While you were talking, I did get a ticket for tomorrow at 4:30. Oh, cool. So I might cancel it before. I'll see how I feel tomorrow after work. But I'm excited to see it again. Cool. And smuggle in my own bag of M&Ms. Overall thoughts for me, I loved it. Visually incredible, very engaging, personal storytelling. The characterization of Roy McBride really kind of resonated for me. Like, it just felt like an authentic kind of an effective story device of him being just this kind of lost person, and kind of not reconnecting, but confronting his demons as in abandonment issues of his father, I guess. Kind of similar to Interstellar, actually. Yeah. This would be an interesting double feature.
It would be, totally.
God, that's gonna be cool. Yeah. But anyway, so I enjoyed it, and it could be, I would say right now, very confidently put it in the top 3.
Nice.
For 2019.
Nice.
That's pending Oscar movies and stuff, so and Heartland and all that. So so that'll do it for our review of Ad Astra. Do you want to do a quick potpourri?
Super quick, yeah.
Okay, super quick. Okay. So we're going to do potpourri real quick, lightning round. Potpourri, for those who don't know or have only listened to the last several months, potpourri is ordinarily a section of the podcast where we talk about stuff we're watching, stuff we've watched, stuff that we've consumed, anything we want, as long as it smells good. Tiny, what have you watched lately?
I just watched, because it's available on Amazon Prime. I just watched Beautiful Boy.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Is that the one with Steve Carell and
Timothée Chalamet?
Yes.
Yeah. It's based on
Whoa.
It's based on a set of books between a father and son the son is addicted to drugs, addicted to meth, and they each wrote a book about the experience, and they were both like best-selling books and stuff like that. So it's about those books, the true story.
That is. When I get to mine, you'll see why I'm kind of gobsmacked. But go ahead.
Okay, it's a very unique situation, a very unique way to tell that story. But the movie was absolutely incredible. I really loved it. I wish I had seen it in 2018.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure it would have been a top 10 of mine for that year. It was so well done. The standout for me was Timothée Chalamet.
Yeah,
I hadn't really seen him in anything. He's in Lady Bird really briefly, and I maybe seen him in something else, but I hadn't seen him lead in anything. I still haven't watched Call Me by Your Name yet.
Yeah, and
you weren't into that.
I really wasn't into that. Also, he played the son in Interstellar. I think the son.
Did he really?
Yeah, the
younger version. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't realize that. But I had never seen him like leading in anything, and he was just super incredible. Yeah. I was blown away by Timothée Chalamet, and it was a funny juxtaposition because we've been watching The Office, and so I'm just thinking of Steve Carell as Michael Scott. So to see him in that role was it kind of threw me at first, but I quickly got out of that idea. There's just some super intense and just really meaty dialogue scenes between him and Timothée Chalamet that are just like how do you have that conversation? Really incredible. It reminded me a little bit of the impossible conversations in God, what was that movie called? Something by the Sea with God, what was that called?
Oh, it was like one of my favorite movies of the year.
With Casey Affleck and
was it City by the Sea or
no? What was that damn movie called?
Casey Affleck by the Sea.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
And Michelle
Williams and Coach Tyler. Manchester by the Sea. Yeah, Kenneth Lonergan.
Yes. So it reminded me of some of those themes and some of those just impossible conversations to have. Just super, and I mean it's heartbreaking. It's dark.
Oh, yeah.
It's hard to watch, but it's also like a really beautiful, incredible story. So I absolutely loved it. I gave it like 4.5 stars on Letterboxd and like 9 on IMDb. Just really awesome.
Yeah, I'm just perusing my review on Letterboxd. I gave it 4 stars when I saw it back in January.
Nice.
I'll read an excerpt from this real quick. I love the music choices as well. There are some great needle drops throughout the movie, but it's the score that is particularly moving to me. There's a sequence where David is searching for Nick and speaking to someone about the realities of addiction and rehabilitation. The score in this stretch of the film is unique within the scope of the rest of the movie and carries with it such a sense of foreboding and pain that it really moved me in a way I wasn't anticipating. I wish I could remember it more clearly. A beautiful movie.
Yeah.
Really raw, and I was really into it.
Nice.
Yeah. Shall I go?
Yes.
Chalamet go? So this is I don't know how much we want to say it. Okay. I asked you before we recorded, do you know who Harris Wittels is / was?
No.
Okay, so Harris Wittels, and this is my potpourri section, by the way. There are many like it, but this one is mine. So Harris Wittels was a writer on Parks and Rec. He started in season 2, wrote on it throughout the rest of the series run. He was promoted within. He became a co-executive producer. He also appeared in the show as one of the animal control guys. He was a very successful stand-up comic. He was on Comedy Bang Bang, the podcast, several times. He had a very famous, funny segment on there where he basically just read just really funny anti-comedy kind of jokes, and not anti-comedy jokes, but like jokes that he hadn't punched up yet. So it's just like they called it Harris's Phone Corner. And he basically just it's basically like Twitter drafts that he has in his notes. And it's like, it's so stupid and ridiculous, but it's funny. So like I talked about him, I think, would have been back in had been back in 2015, because in February of 2015 he died from a heroin overdose.
Right, okay, that's what I thought you were leading towards.
Yeah,
I remember when that happened.
Yeah, and at the time, I was sad by it because I was a fan of the guy, and he, I remember talking about this on the podcast because Mike kind of commented on it too, that I had basically gone through and downloaded all his appearances on Comedy Bang Bang and some other podcasts and just like listened to all of them. And like, it's tragic. It's sad because the dude was a comedic, he was brilliant. Like, he was so brilliant, so young. He was 30 years old. He was the week that he died, like, he was all set to move to New York. He was going to, he was going to be helping develop and write Aziz Ansari's show Master of None, like the Eric Wareheim character, like Aziz's best friend in Master of None. That was going to be Harris Wittels, and that was going to be like his potentially like breakout role that was going to bring him into like the acting realm and everything.
Okay.
So, the reason I bring that up is that his sister, Stephanie Wittels-Wachs, she wrote a memoir called Everything is Horrible and Wonderful. Let me actually double check that. Everything is Horrible and Wonderful, a tragic comedy memoir of genius, heroin, love, and lost. On Audible, it's 6 hours and 52 minutes. Listened to the entire thing today.
Wow.
From beginning to end. Could not... Like, I was so absorbed by it. Like, I got teary-eyed throughout several sections of it. Holy crap. Like, first of all, if you're a fan of Harris Wittels' comedy in any capacity or any of the things that he did, he was also a writer for Sarah Silverman program. And, like, if you were a Parks and Rec fan, like, you should check out this book because it is intensely moving and incredibly candid and raw. Like, the kind of structure of it is that Stephanie, who is his sister, his older sister, she goes back and forth between telling stories about before his death and after. So each kind of chapter alternates, like, and it's kind of chronologically, like it goes from far back in the past when they were kids, leading up to his death, and you know, the aftermath of like the grief and the just a tragedy of it. And the complete kind of thing is this intense and poignant and just heartbreaking window into this woman and her family's grief and how they dealt with it. And I am so profoundly moved by Stephanie Wittels-Wachs' candor. Like it's all there. Like she is so open about everything, and they talk about his struggle with addiction, how she felt at different parts of it and everything, and how the family dealt with his relapses, his when he was at the height of his addiction and everything, and the different like struggles and everything. There's a section where she helps him like detox, and it's heartbreaking. It's so fucking heartbreaking.
Wow. And
interspersed through that is just anecdotes about just his comedy, his life, his relationship with her and her daughter, like in the year before he died, like she had a baby, and like his kind of relationship with his niece, and how like just this whole, it's filled with like this regret and but also this celebration at the same time of this very unique and talented, brilliant person who died way too young. And it's not like an indictment of heroin or any, or like it's a very human story. Like she makes no aspersions about like hating him at times because of what he does to the family, and like how his addiction affects the family and everything. But it's also like she's aware without being like preachy about it or anything that it is something that is out of his control, and it's something that it's not as black and white as like, okay, well, he was a drug addict, so let's just, screw it, who cares? Because it's just this flippant kind of attitude. There are anecdotes about like how it was so heartbreaking because she is telling us about what it's like to have to tell her parents that their son is dead. And she tells about telling her dad, and at the time her mother was out with friends. And so like there's this really just heartbreaking passage where she says something to the effect of, I sat there and waited with my dad while my mom enjoyed the last hours of blissful ignorance before everything in her world changed. And then the gut punch after that is that TMZ broke the story and she found out before they could tell her.
Oh my God.
And there's other things about that. And she makes no, like, she's like she doesn't name, like, there's another leak that happens that she was very adamant about being opposed to. And she like says like a media outlet like released it and everything. And she's just like, she's kind of talking about how bizarre it is that he's this person that meant so much to them as a family and everything. But he is this media, like media is, like ran with it, and like people were mourning him for 2 weeks and then they moved on and stuff. And it's such an incredible book.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's, I highly recommend it. Stephanie Wittels-Wachs, she, narrates it too. So there's that kind of added kind of, emotion to it. But it's called Everything is Horrible and Wonderful, a tragicomic memoir of genius, heroin, love, and loss by Stephanie Wittels-Wachs, and highly recommend it.
Nice.
And there's a moment also, this will be the last thing because I know we gotta get out of here. Mm-hmm. But there's a moment where she's going through his phone, and one of his big things is like on Comedy Bang Bang, he did Harris's Phone Corner or Harris's Foam Corner, where he reads those drafts and everything. And so like there's a section where she reads the drafts and everything, and like it's kind of like a posthumous like Harris's Foam Corner kind of segment, but like just the level, like I'll say one joke, like I laughed out loud, and I don't know, I was cracking up, and that's something that's brilliant about the book. But one of his jokes, and I'm not going to do it justice, he's like, did you hear about the fat guy who made the successful TV show? He got an Emmy. Nom 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 nom.
Oh my God. That is dumb.
It is so, and that is Harris's Phone Corner. Like that is the level of it. Like I'll put links in the show notes to YouTube videos that collects them, but it's like it's just brilliant. Like just little nuggets of just genius there.
That was fun.
Yeah, but anyway, that's that book, so check it out. And yeah, also check out Comedy Bang Bang and Harris's appearances on that.
Cool.
Yeah, so I think that'll do it for this episode of The Obsessive Viewer. Yep. Next week we'll have something.
Yeah.
Probably without Tiny because he's on call.
I am.
But we'll figure something out. So, yeah, having said all that, yeah, we'll see you next time. Check out Tower Junkies and Anthology, which should have more episodes at some point. Yeah, and yeah, thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, guys.
And now, here's a short clip from our Patreon exclusive RSS feed. To hear the full clip and more exclusive Patreon content, go to patreon.com/obsessiveviewer and become a patron at the minimum rate of $1 per month. Thank you and enjoy. Like, I remember, like, I have not seen this movie in
almost 30 years.
Yeah, oh God. I don't like that at all. Yeah. I had to catch up with the math, and I did not like it. In almost 30 years. Jesus Christ. But I vividly remember,
The Obsessive Viewer podcast is edited and produced by Matt Hurt and presented by ObsessiveViewer.com. For a full archive of our episodes, go to ObsessiveViewer.com/OVarchive. You can also like our Facebook page and join the OV Facebook group at facebook.com/theobsessiveviewer, and follow us on Twitter at obsessiveviewer and at obsessivetiny, and follow our recurring co-hosts at I am Mike White, that's me, at R.A. Feckus, and at burger_lurker. If you enjoy the show, please take a couple minutes to leave us a rating and a quick review on Apple Podcasts. This is the easiest way to support what we do, and all it costs is a little bit of your time. If you'd like to donate to the podcast, you can make a PayPal donation at obsessiveviewer.com/donate, or support us on Patreon for recurring donations and access to commentary tracks and B-roll audio recorded exclusively for patrons at patreon.com/obsessiveviewer. Every donation goes toward paying the fees to keep the podcast running and is greatly appreciated. For official Obsessive Viewer merch, including shirts, mugs, phone cases, and more, visit our TeePublic store. You can find a link to the store in the show notes of this episode and at obsessiveviewer.com/donate. Or you can simply search for Obsessive Viewer at teepublic.com, T-E-E, public.com. For information about our annual live event showcasing short horror films from local filmmakers, check out shocktoberInIrvington.com. And for an archive of all our events, as well as news about potential future events, head over to obsessiveviewer.com/live. For more podcast content, you can find Anthology, Matt's solo podcast covering The Twilight Zone and other classic and contemporary science fiction anthology TV shows at anthologypod.com and on Twitter at OVAnthologyPod. You can also find Tower Junkies, a podcast where Matt and Tiny share their love of all things Stephen King and his magnum opus, the Dark Tower series, at towerjunkiespod.com and at towerjunkiespod on Twitter. And finally, check out The Secular Perspective, Tiny's side project podcast, which tackles current events and life's big questions from the perspective of secular hosts Chad and Amanda at thesecularperspective.com. The theme music for The Obsessive Viewer comes courtesy of the band Loudlike from their EP Mistakes We Must Make. Additional bumper music is provided courtesy of As Good As It Gets, which can be found at facebook.com/asgoodasitgetsband. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Kitty!